During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10, so I told her it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Mayor Sarno. How are you doing today?
Good to see you, Junior. Chip off the old block, just like your father. Remember with those stinky cakes. Michael, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too. So thank you for being able to take the time out of your day to allow me to interview you today. So thank you.
Best meeting of my day, Michael.
Thank you. So the first question I want to ask you is, can you tell me a little bit about your journey to how you became the mayor of Springfield?
Well, first of all, I have to give a shout out to my parents. God rest their souls. Alfonso Sarno and Clara Sarno. Al the Barber, and I know you interviewed Clarence, a big C, and he was a friend of my father's and vice versa. I'm first generation. So my parents came from another country, Italy, and at times in their younger days, they had to survive hiding underground during the Nazi occupation, World War II. They came over to America with not much of anything. My father, right after the war, was in Six Corners and could not finish any formal education. Had to go to work to help support his family. And my mom came over right very early in the 1960, 61 when President Kennedy relaxed the immigration embargo. A seamstress, a tailor, and really couldn't finish formal education. I say that because uh, they had their own businesses, like you, realistic CEO. They worked hard. Father had a barbershop. My mother had a seamstress uh, up on Dickinson Street. And at one time, we used to have two family on Dickinson Street. First floor was the barbershop and the tailor shop, seamstress. And they gave me my hard work ethic and about following through and being respectful to any and all that came into those shops on it. So, I give a shout out to them. It's because of their efforts on. I'm honored to be the longest serving mayor in the city of Springfield's history. But starts from the home, as you know, with your dad and your family members. So growing up in the barbershop, I think that's where I got the bug for politics. Because people would come in and they'd say to my father, Alfonso, Al, they tell you your problems and they ask, I need help with this or I need help with that. Who do I need to go to see or who do I need to speak to? So in those days, when you said politician, I sort of thought they were revered. Now it's sort of a bad word or dirty word because of the climate we're in. But that's where I got the bug about being able to help, whether you're helping an individual out, a family, a cause, a neighborhood, a business. But I'm Springfield born, bred, and proud. Proud graduate of the High School of Commerce. I know you're Putnam, great school, and Josh over there is Central. And then I stayed local with college, AIC, American International College. I played a little ball up there, a little soccer and baseball for a little while, and then went on to Westfield State, where I picked up a psychology degree. So I always kid around. If I lose my mind, I can examine myself for half price on it. And then I worked a lot of various jobs too. And I remember working in my uncle's florist shop and the clothing store, and then moving on up, having city positions as a young housing code enforcement inspector, and then got my big break with Mary Hurley, Judge Mary Hurley. She's still the first and only female mayor in the city's history. And I used to sit on the other side of the door. I was in my early 20s as an aide and assistant, and then code enforcement as a director, deputy director for a little while. One thing I'm really proud of too, the Hamden County Worker Assistance Center was in the old MCDI building on Wilbraham Avenue, which since had to be demolished. We helped out thousands of people out there during the economic decline of the late 80s, early 90s. People who swept the floors to executive vice presidents of medical institutions and helped them, retrain them or help them get back on their feet with jobs and help them put a roof, keep a roof over their head or put food on the table and clothes on their kids' back. I still run into people that thank you for that. Then I had an opportunity to work for DA Bill Bennett, and I used to deal with the borderline hardcore juvenile probationers to straighten them out with structured community service, and many kids we were able to reach, and some that just broke your heart. Youth development's important to me, and I had the old South End Community Center. Now we have built a new one after the tornado, and I was the executive director there. And one thing I wanted to say too about the never give up attitude. Uh, I was at AIC, was playing a little bit ball, and you always want to have some money in your pocket. And I never forget, I had like $13 to my name. And I wanted to take a little break from school. It's supposed to be like a half semester. Probably one of the worst moves I ever made. I told kids, stick it out, stay in school. But I ended up going to work with a flooring crew. And I tell kids all the time, anything you do with your hands with pride, skills, trades, you can make a hell of a living. And that's evident with Putnam Vocational Technical Academy. That half a semester turned into about 3 years. Now, I made some money, but then I ended up going back to school. And I went back to school at night at Westfield State to pick up that psychology degree. And I was a little more mature. And it made you, even those long days, it made you work harder on that. So getting here, again, I got that bug in my father's barbershop. So I started getting involved in campaigns at a young age. Did everything and anything. Put signs together, put signs up, put stamps on envelopes. Any menial task I did. And then eventually I build up on working on campaigns to really helping and trying to run some things and do this or that. Then I thought, hey, I like to take a shot at it myself. And the first time I ran, it was at large city council. And so it was always tough to break in. And I just missed by a few hundred votes. But like you, I didn't give up. I learned from that. You can learn from adversity as now you're a realistic CEO when you were told you couldn't be a CEO. And it made me redouble my efforts and work even harder. Came back and nearly topped the ticket. And then, city council president. I served on the financial control board. And then I wanted to take a shot and run for mayor. And like you were told, you can't do it. I was told, you're not gonna be able to make it. And but we did. And, adversity can teach you a lot. We don't win all the time, and you can learn from your mistakes too, and that can make you stronger on it. So now I sit here, and it's something I live 24/7. I love it. And not every day, Michael, is a good day. There's days I want to bang my head against the wall. There's other days I want to bang other people's heads against the wall. But then something comes across, a genuine thank you, a card, an email, a phone call. Hey, you helped my grandmother out. That situation in the neighborhood's been resolved. Business is going okay. But there's never a dull moment down here. And the last thing I'll say is whether I'm dealing with a billion-dollar economic project or Mrs. Smith calls me and says, Domenic, Sarno, hey, Mayor, I got a pothole in my street. What are you going to do about that? You got to follow through. As you know, your dad's a business. You got to follow through for your customer service. So I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to listen a little more to you.
So the first question I want to ask you is, you said when your parents, they came from out of a war. So like that mindset of them being able to try to do better by coming to America, would you say they rubbed that off and gave it to you?
Yeah, they did. They did. Because again, and you know what they always stress to us too, to myself, my younger sister, younger brother, school, 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 school. You go to school, because they wanted you to do better. And you know, we might not have had everything we wanted, but we had what we needed, and you know, we were fine. You know, I grew up in mainly a Forest Park area, blue collar, middle class, overall middle class there, and but we had family, our family there, and you always knew that you had a roof over your head, and you're gonna have food on the table and clothes on your back. And I think sometimes people take that for granted. And now, being a father of two, my daughters are older now, and it'd be funny, because people will say, when you get older and you have kids, you'll see what you say, and you turn around, you're saying things that your mom and dad would say to you. That now you're saying it to your kids on it. But yeah, that game, they worked hard, because nothing was. Sometimes it would amaze me how they were able to do it. But they always wanted to provide for the family, and I think that's big. The more stable, solid foundation as you come from family, and not every day is a good day, the better opportunity you're going to have. It starts from the home, and then the foundation's there. Then your skills can be honed through your education. But as I told you before off camera, I tell kids all the time, young people or young men, like, hey, besides having a little, intelligence, some smart, have a little bit of common sense too, and have a little street in you too, because people come at you from all different angles. There's always people on the hustle who are trying to do this. You might think they're, and then size it up. It's head, heart, and gut. If something feels right, fine. Head, heart, and gut. If something doesn't feel right, you get that sixth sense. Get away from that person, or get away from that situation. Go to somebody you trust. Go to someplace safe that you'll be around. Because we have so many great young people like yourself and the team you have here. And it really pains me that at times some media paint urban centers in a negative light, especially our young people. So again, when your dad told me that the teacher said, um, "That's not realistic. You'll never be a CEO," and I went, "What?" And the spin you've done that with realistic CEO, and I mean, I remember your dad when he first started. Sinking Cakes now, mentoring people, motivational speaker, many other spin-off businesses. Did it on his own, so the apples will fall too far away from the tree. But yeah, I think they're going back to my parents, and I've had some great other people that have supported me too in my career. But I think it starts from the home right off the bat.
So can you tell me a little bit about the people that mentored you throughout your life and how each one of them was different, but yet still helped you?
I think uh, some coaches that I had in playing ball, and I played with a lot of great ball players, very diverse ball players, whether it was in baseball or soccer or in hoop on it. And I think, politically, my start, I mean, Judge Hurley, Mary Hurley gave me my big start. I met her through the Beg Lane family. I was 15 years old, 15 years old, and started working on her city council campaigns, and uh, that was very big. I've had some good mentors, people I worked for, District Attorney Bill Bennett, and I think those two were very good. And I've had, some people behind the scenes that have really given me great, great advice and told me the pros and cons of a situation. Being a CEO, as you are, I think you don't want to surround yourself with yes people. And you're shaking your head already, because yes people are going to tell you, what you want to hear, and then they'll move on right to the next person. You want people that are going to tell you uh, pros and cons. You want that boot in the behind to come from the inside. So if boot in behind comes from the outside, it's a little too late. So you want people in your organization, your business, that are going to say, Michael or Dominic, here's a con to this thing here. I have to be like a general practitioner, general doctor. I need to know a little bit about everything, but I have to surround myself That's key in business. Surround yourself with good, knowledgeable, trustworthy people that that share your same vision, but are willing to say, "I don't think that's a good move," or "That's a good move." In my case, if you base your I can't make everybody happy, but if you base your decisions on good government, 9 out of 10 times people will get it. But we're both shaking our heads on. You don't want to surround yourself with yes people because they'll just move on to the next person.
So you said that you kind of wanted to be a politician from being in your dad's barbershops. Like, can you tell me a little bit about how that happened?
My father had all people. He was an old time barber, and he had people from all walks of life that would come in there. And uh, I just, that anybody walked, treated respectfully, and people would come in and ask. They would tell you, they'd talk to you. They would tell you your problems as a barber, and they would seek his advice. What do I need to do, or where do I need to go? And I'll tell you one story pertaining to the barbershop with my dad. Two stories. Uh, Rupert Daniel just retired as deputy chief, his first deputy, African American black deputy chief of the Springfield Police Department's history. Recently, Police Superintendent Larry Akers was just in first ever in the city's history. And when you're first, you have to highlight that. It has nothing to do with skin color. Highlight that. But Rupert told me a story. I never knew this. He lived around my father's barbershop. Never knew this. And his foster mom, or the mom, before going to school, the school was going to start, and Rupert had this big afro. And the mother says, "Hey, you got to get a haircut. Go see Al. Go see Al the barber over there." So he goes, "I went to see your dad. I was a young kid. And your dad said to me, he goes, you come back in 2 days and I'll give you a haircut." And he said, because my father, he goes, I wanted to make sure he got out his books and everything like that, because I wanted to make sure I wanted to cut it the right way. Not saying to me, well, you should go to another barber on that. And Rupert told me that story, and I went, I never knew that. He goes, yeah. He says, come back, kid. He goes, come back in 2 days, and I'll cut your hair. And then he would go to my dad. And but that's the way I was brought up. Another story would be with the Griffin family, Jay Griffin, and all the Griffin boys, Rich and Dr. Griffin. My father came in Six Corners when he came over. And Six Corners was predominantly a Italian and black area, and tough, but it was a respectful area. And I remember when I first started campaigning, Dr. Len Lockley would took me around, and I went to Jinxie's, it was Frankie Jones's place on Hancock Street. It was Jazz place, no longer there. And I'll never forget walking in when he brought me in, and Frankie Jones, but he goes, "Who's your father?" I said, "Al the barber." "It's Funzy." He goes, "Oh man, my grandma used to he's pasta fazool, green plate. Your grandma used to make us pasta fazool there." And that's how it was. Back to the Griffins. Jay Griffin told me a story. When I first started running, I had a fundraising event. I think it was at Coconuts, and Jay came in and he saw my father. I gave him big, "Fonzie, how are you?" I said, "Jay, I did." He goes, "Let me tell you a story about your dad." And nobody would have messed with the Griffin boys as they got older. Great athletes and great community people. He said there was this big Italian guy. He was a bully, big guy, big guy. And he would torture us all the time. And we used to call your father the little Hercules. He was strong. And one day he was really bothering us, and your father said to the guy, he said, "Hey, you better leave them alone, or I'm going to." I can't say what he said because you beat me. I'm gonna and I'm gonna throw you over the fence. So Jason goes, "Oh, this is gonna be a hell of a beef or fight." The guy's he's big, but Al Funzy's little Hercules. And he said, your father did exactly what he said he was going to do. And from that day on, the guy would walk across the street and wave to us. So I told, so Jason, now that's civil rights. So I asked my dad, I go, geez, Dad, why don't you ever tell me that story? He goes, don't have to tell you that story. That's the way we raised you. You know, that's the way we raised you. And you got to try to treat people with respect. I know I segued a bit, but, you know, that's a little bit of my upbringing there.
So another thing that you said is you want to surround yourself with people that can tell you like, yeah, yes, you might think that this is gonna work, but no, like you got to do this. So like, how are you able to build a team around you to make sure that you're not surrounding yourself with yes men?
I think, first of all, you want to make sure that he or she that you have around you, you know, I have various cabinet heads, department heads, and you know, all the way up rank and file. But you want to surround yourself that they're knowledgeable. They know the situation that you're putting them in, so they know it. That's number one. Number two, that they're, if you have that, that the importance about loyalty is important, but you want that loyalty also to show that when you have to speak up and say, and I'll say, geez, I'll always say, and Billy Beal thing, what's the pro or con of this? Because I might not see everything. They might see something I don't see. Oh, okay. But then the old Harry President Truman line, the buck stops with me. Then I can render a decision at that point. And but you got to have that. You got to have that because if somebody's going to yes you to death, they could yes you right out of your business or right out of office if it's something that's not right for the people or business community of the city of Springfield.
So how are you able to make sure that the people around you feel comfortable enough to let you know what's really going on?
I think they know you gotta you gotta have. Becoming a better listener, and I think I ask it because you're right, Michael. You're absolutely right. She's he's my boss. She's my boss. I don't want to say. I'll ask it many times, saying, "Tell me the pros and cons of this. Am I seeing this right, or is there something wrong here?" So that opens the door for them to freely he or she say, "She's not. You know, a little leery on this. We probably shouldn't do this." Or, no, everything seems to check out moving forward. I remember uh, former Mayor Teddy DeMauro when he became mayor, and we sent me a beautiful letter. But he we talked probably once a month or so, and he'd always say to me, he said uh, one thing. He said, uh, "Everybody's going to be your cousin now." We all know that, right? When you're gonna, everybody's your cousin. In Italian, say "Cugine," Mikey, your father's laughing now. He understands that. And he goes, everybody's gonna come to you with the best thing since sliced bread. He says, you tell them to put it in writing. 9 out of 10 times, your father's nodding his head. You'll never get anything. You'll never get anything. And then he said, you're gonna get sued every week. He goes, don't sweat it. That's what the law department's there for. And another former mayor, Billy Sullivan, said to me too. He goes, I don't care if you're mayor in 1856 or nowadays, because you're gonna, you're gonna get beat up in this job, but you got to have one thing. You got to have passion. He said, if you don't have the passion, you take the keys out of your pocket and put them on your desk and walk out. I think I still have the passion for it. And he said, geez, I never had to deal with 24/7 media, social media, uh, drugs, gangs, guns, on that. And but you got to have the passion. You have to do it for the people. You can't do it for yourself. And you might be CEO. I tell people all the time, we helped out a lot of businesses through the pandemic. Yeah, you might be the city CEO or president of a business, especially let's say small business. You're still sweeping the floors. You're still putting out the trash. And on top of that, you got to deal with the books and everything like that. But that makes you learn. You work your way. It makes you learn more, and it makes you appreciate it. And I always tell young people too, when you're going for that first career position or you move, whatever you're looking to do, you might not have on that resume all the experience you're looking for. But if you go in there and say, hey, I'm going to work hard for you, I'm going to be on time, if not early, I'm going to dress properly, just give me the chance. Sometimes that might give you an edge over someone that has everything on paper, but they don't have the motivation there. So you'd be surprised, just because then you harken back. Everybody gave, people gave me opportunities. You created your own opportunity. Your father's created a lot of opportunities. And I always try to tell young kids too, as you move forward, if you have that time, remember that somebody gave you an opportunity. Somebody put their arm around your shoulder. Play it forward. Tell your story. Because now they might see you all successful. Now, oh my God. Like I said, I did plenty of things with my hands. Everything must have been handed to you. Hey, you must have had a silver spoon in your mouth there. And then you tell them the story. Really? That's what you did? You had to do that? Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you diversify enough, that makes you stronger.
So another thing that you talked about, you said that like not every day is a good day, but the days where you get an email or somebody comes up to you and thanks you for what you're doing, like how are you able to go and fight, make sure that you get through those bad days?
You have to have that passion. And I think another thing too, I have a great, Sarno subcompany, I have a great staff, and it's funny how things, and this happens in business too. You'll see, that's it. You try, doesn't work out. But you learn from that, and then all of a sudden, when you don't expect it, something clicks, something happens. So it looks like dark times, but that sun will come out together. If you worked hard and you've done your homework, strategy. In my business, you not only have to try to be efficient, effective, strategic. I'm in the business of giving too. You got to be compassionate too. But that does. I mean, there are some days. You're right. You feel not physically but mentally beat up, and you say to yourself, maybe it's time to move on. Then that email, that letter, that card, that phone call, you run into the person. Geez, whatever it was, whether it was a big deal or something on the street, that he or she says you made a positive difference in that situation. That's it means like $1 million. But there'll be times, Mychal, you'll see that you go, what more could happen now? And then something turns around and keeps you going.
As a leader, what are some characteristics that you think is important to be a good leader?
Besides being as knowledgeable as you can, you got to be strong in fortitude. And Billy Beal said, something I'm getting better at, you got to be a good listener. And I'm getting better at it. Gosh, I'm getting a little bit better at it. You got to be a good listener. And the other thing too, about being a good leader, there's always two sides to a story, okay? Somebody will come in and say, hey, this is what happened. There's always two sides to a story. And you got to get both sides of those stories when you have to make a decision. But when it's time to make that decision, you make that decision. Now, does that mean on a split second when somebody brings something to your attention that you have to answer it right away? No, you don't have to. But you follow up. Let me do my research on that. Let me get back to you and find out, because I'm asked everything and anything all the time on it. But you can't be afraid to make tough decisions once you've gotten all the information at that point in time. You can't play the fence. Leaders have to be up front. Got to be out front.
So I've noticed every time I ask the question of what it takes to be a good leader, listening is always an answer. So can you tell me why listening as a leader is important to you?
Sometimes you can get things done by not even saying a word. Listen, absorb, and then you can make a move or decide at that point in time. It's funny you bring that up, Michael, because sometimes, something happens. Geez, we got to react. We got to do something right away. Believe me when I tell you, sometimes you just take a step back, let it play out, and sometimes the situation resolves itself on it. But I am getting better because sometimes when you listen, then you can really see what the issue, the problem is on it, and you can learn a lot. So I am getting better on that. Here, like I said, it's like at times you're drinking water out of a fire hose. So every 5 minutes something comes across, and little things mean a lot. Sometimes you got to nip things in the bud because if you don't worry about that, don't worry about it, it becomes a bigger issue. But I am getting better at it. I'm far from perfect, but just especially with your employees that come in and they might have an issue or problem, and or staff, hear them out first. Now, does that mean you're going to agree with them or be able to resolve the issue? Maybe a lot of times you are, but maybe other times you aren't. But at least he or she could say to you, Michael, listen to me. Or Dominic, at least listen to me on it. And here's the reasoning why I can't do that, or you can't do that, or here's the reasoning why let's move in this direction with the business. And if you're the boss, you call the final shot.
So yeah, I like how you talked about making a decision, but you don't have to rush right away. So how are you able to make sure that you're making decisions that you know are best for you?
If something in your mind, Michael, you know it inside and out. You know it inside and out, and it's cut and dry. And the person, then you know what. It is what it is. I decide to do this. I've decided not to do that. If it's something that you don't know inside or out, you don't have full knowledge of, you come back and say, I need to take a look at that situation. And then what I do at that point in time is, I'll huddle with my advisors or my staff and stuff. Okay, what specifically is going on Dickinson Street or on Dunmore? What's going on there? Get all the information. Oh, okay, that's what's happening there. Okay, this is the route we have to go. But if you know something inside and out and cut and dry, Michael, you don't waste anybody's time. Just say yes, no, can't do it. Reason why. If you don't know, many times I don't know all the information either. Let me review let me get all the information on it, and then I'll get back to you. But the thing is, you got to get back. You got to get back. Whether good or bad news, people appreciate that, especially when they get good news. But even if you get back to somebody, worst thing you could say, somebody comes to you, Michael, I need help on this. Can you help me out? No problem. I'll take care of it. Because we all want to please. When you say you're going to take care of something, people expect you to take care of something. So that's what I always say, if I can, I'll look into it, but you got to get back to it. Unless you absolutely know that you can control that situation. But when you say, all set, I'll take care of it, you're all set. People expect to be all set. So if any one of us, if we don't know we can do that, I'll get back to you. And you got to get back to he or she and say, yeah, you're all set. Your mom's all set, or your kid's all set. I'm sorry, I looked into the situation. I can't do anything about that situation.
So as the mayor of a large city like Springfield, can you tell me a little, a day-to-day experience of what it's like to be the mayor?
Well, like I said, this is the best meeting of my day today on it. You have a schedule, okay? My day usually starts, I probably get up about 5:15 in the morning. And when my daughters were younger, there'd be times where I would see them, maybe see them first thing in the morning, and I might not see them till the next morning. So your schedule can change like that. So something comes up, you got to deal with it. And besides meetings, and you have events, and people you have announcements, and then something always comes up. I'll tell you how it is. you got to, Springfield's a good city. There's plenty more good than bad. We do have our urban challenges, as such as other urban America cities do. But how quickly something can change on a dime. In my wildest dreams, Michael. Now, every once in a while we might get a blizzard or a snowstorm, maybe a hurricane roars up the coast. In my wildest dreams, an EF3 tornado hits the city of Springfield with 160-mile-an-hour winds, tears up a third of the city. That doesn't change that changes your schedule not for a day. That changed my schedule for years. What we just went through recently, all of us, the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic. It was surreal. Surreal. Masks, 6 feet away, this. Schools had to be shut down. We kept things going. A man-made thing, the massive gas explosion we had in downtown Springfield. Changed on a dime. And many of us all went through it too. That same year of the tornado, we had the freak nor'easter that came pre-Halloween, late October, where we got hit with that snowstorm, and people's power was out. In my case, some people are out 10 days, but 6, 7 days out with no power. And we had to keep things going. I'll never forget, this you can laugh about it now. People would actually call my office or call my house and said, "Why did you cancel Halloween?" Well, there's power lines down all over the place. There's snow, there's trees down on it, but dealing with those situations, and here's the thing I have to say about that. You could use this analogy in business too, in a situation deal with. I'm not saying natural and man-made disasters. It can go in any challenging situation. When you're the boss, you're leading the way. In my case, many times I have to do that in front of the media. Something happens. You got to do 3 things. 1, let people know what happened, Michael. 2, let them know what you're going to do about it. And 3, hope. We're going to get through this together, working together. You got to give them that hope. And yeah, so the schedule can change in a minute. If something tragic happens out there, and that's another thing too. People might say, you're the mayor, all this tremendous power. When there's a loss of life, and you got to deal with the family, whether the hospital or the funeral parlor or on the street. I can't bring that person back. That's what gives me a lot of sleepless nights. A lot of this violence that occurs on the city streets, and whether it's youth violence, it's gun violence, repeat criminal offenders aren't being held, and that affects everybody. All people want, no matter what creed, color, and background, they want quality of life, they want public safety. They want their families to grow up and have opportunity, and that gives me a lot of sleepless nights when that happens. But there's nothing like being mayor. I think President Lyndon Johnson said the toughest job in the world is being a mayor, especially in an urban center. You can't run, you can't hide. And it's funny because I still have little kids sometimes in the morning going to school. They knock, "Hey, morning, Mr. Mayor." You can't. Things like that, keep you going. But my mom, Clara Sarno, God rest her soul, would always say to me, "Everybody loves you, Dominic." I go, "Hey, Ma, not everybody waves at me with all 5 fingers, because you're making." Yeah, you like that? That's true. You're talking about. Because you're making decisions. But most people get it. So I think if you use that in your business world, if you're dealing with a challenge, this is what happened. Now you might, you're a realistic CEO, you can end up being CEO of some big time businesses that, and you might have to deal with shareholders, stockholders, a board of directors stuff. Hey, this is what happened. This is what we're going to do about it. We're going to get through this together. We'll make adjustments and get through this together. Plus, in the business world, always important, and I'm proud of the financial strength we have here in the city of Springfield. We were nearly at bankruptcy when I took over. You got to make sure you have good, sound financial people around you. And to make sure they cross the T's and dot the I's. Because then all of a sudden, that's how things get. Well, oh no, we didn't file this, we didn't file that, and next thing you know, you're paying penalties. That cuts down on your bottom line, Michael. That could cut down on your employees. And I think you lead by example. If your employees see that, Jesus, Michael's doing that, or Mikey, Sarno's doing that, you lead by example. I'll get my hands dirty. Then they can't say, well, you tell us what to do all the time. Lead by example.
So let's say you might come in, like you might like have like a couple bad days. Like it's like, how are you able to make sure that you're staying positive? And if not, how are you able to make sure that the other people around you aren't being affected by you?
Okay, you're right. Not every day is a good day. I think you need to have a sense of humor. You need to have some self-deprecating humor. You got to be able to make fun of yourself too. Can't take things serious all the time. My wife Carla keeps me grounded. I'll tell you, I might be the mayor of the city. Well, she's the mayor of 109, Carroll Street, and there's no pretense to me. I tell people, today I just have a sports coat on and a dress shirt. There's no pretense to me. I'm just a regular kid, regular guy, who grew up with not having everything we wanted, but had what we needed, and that gains you more of a respect for that. But I think you need to have a sense of humor. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. You got to have a good staff. Good staff, or people that are close, you can calm you down at times. Relax. And I think that's. Don't take yourself too serious. Don't take yourself too serious. You got to show a confidence. Don't get me wrong. Because when you're the boss or you're the leader, you run the show, people are always looking to knock you off that mountain, whether in business or in politics. So be respectful, be thoughtful, be compassionate, but also you got to be confident, not cocky, confident, and you got to have some toughness. That's why I tell people about have that intelligence. I tell people, young kids all the time. I said, sometimes you can beat somebody. You don't have to use these. This. They won't even know what hit them. Knowledge is power. And I tell kids all the time, peer pressure, and it's tough because it's, don't worry about it. We'll be all set. The head, heart, and gut. I said, something doesn't feel right. 6 cents. You get away from that person. Get away from that place. Then someday they'll say, Jesus, man. I should have done what that Connolly Jr. was doing. There'll be time to have fun, but when it's time to get down to business, it's time to get down to business. Time to learn. You want to make that money. You like that jig in the pocket. That means you got to work hard. That means you might have to miss some things, but it's going to pay dividends for you down the road. And I tell people all the time too. They ask me, "What can I do to help you out in the city of Springfield?" And I say to them, number one, are you taking care of your family? Because if you're taking care of your family, that's 9/10 of the battle. Got a little extra time, they can get back to the community. A lot of times people are not taking care of their family. It's a tough job, being a mom, being a dad, having kids. You got to do the best you can. You got to do for them, and you got to lead by example. And then there's always role models and mentors that are going to be around for you. Coaches, teachers, community centers on it. But yeah, I just think don't take yourself too serious. I'm talking about myself. Be able to laugh at yourself, and You gotta have humor is important. You gotta be able to laugh.
So you talked about family and like how it's important to you. So how are you able to balance work
Yeah.
with family?
Like I said, my days sometimes can go 14, 16 hours a day, which was tough when my girls were younger. I have a great wife in Carla. She understands it and very supportive and solid foundation home. But you're right. It puts stress on it. So any free time I have, I like to spend with my family, and even if it's just getting some downtime, that's all. But there'll be times when things will arise in the family. There's a health challenge. There's a loss of family, and then most people understand or get it. They have to understand that I need to be with my family right now. But when you're mayor, it's 24/7. Can't turn it off. You out have bite to eat, or you're in a grocery store here. The people come up to you. That's fine. You can't say, hey, I'm not mayor right now. You're mayor. And then I always tell people, if you've got a problem or you got a beef, take it up with me. Leave my family alone. But I remember, call house visits to the house here. My father's barbershop. People would go to my father's barbershop. Gotta tell your son I'm having on it. So, but that's what it's all about. So that's why you have to have the passion that you want to help. And sometimes you're going to be able to help. You'll see. Other times you can't. People will ask you for the most ridiculous things. And you're the mayor. Why can't you do it? Well, one, it's illegal. You can't do that. And they'll be like, I can't help you do that. But they mean well. But they just think you just wave a wand and do it. But it's a great feeling when you get that genuine thank you. It really is, and you'll see as you continue on with your career. You guys continue on with your career, being CEOs. When you give people opportunity for a job is somebody's identity. And that's big. And then when you lose a job, that ranks right up there with loss of a loved one or a spouse or. So you help somebody put food on their table, a roof over their head, clothes on the back, and help their kids go to college. And they're never going to forget that. And that's all you ask of your employees, besides to work hard. If somebody can go the extra yard, it benefits all. And you can't say thank you enough. Because a lot of times people don't say thank you. And that's all sometimes somebody's looking for is a thank you. Geez, I just busted my ass doing this and that. She didn't even say anything to me. Michael, thank you. Thanks for doing that. Josh, thanks for doing that. Billy, thank you. I really appreciate that. So that's important. When you have to lay down the law, do it in a respectful way, but sometimes you gotta send a message. But then you got to be quick to reinforce too, and say, hey, you did a great job. Did a great job. I mean, that when we played ball, now it's it's tough for coaches to say anything to a kid now. Parents go, hey, I had some great coaches that when they had to give you a boot in the behind, but they did that in a motivational way. Your father's a motivational speaker, but they'd be quick to praise you too. It's everybody wins. Well, no, not everybody wins. Not everybody wins. You can be successful, but there's times that you're going to lose. But you can learn from that. Now there's participation trophies, and everybody's got to play. Well, there's certain roles. Whether you're a star player or maybe you're a role player and I think that it toughens you up to deal with adversity. If you're kept in a bubble all the time, and that bubble's not there for you when you get out into the real world, you're going to be taken advantage of. And that's why I say about, not only having intelligence, common sense, a little street in you too. What? I don't. That doesn't sound. Have a nice day. You know.
So for the last question I want to ask you is, what's a fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows about?
Well, geez, I think people know a lot of stuff of me. Now, okay, when I was a kid, uh, and in a time you hated doing it when I was a kid, play ball, but growing up being first generation, uh, a lot of things were made at home. So I used to pick with my grandparents, my grandfather, my grandma, Nani, my tata. We used to go through Forest Park and pick wild mushrooms. And I remember my grandfather had the dog, hunting dog Fool, and I used to carry the satchel. He had the tree saw, three-piece tree saw, and my Nani on my father's side. She was like 5 foot tall. And Forest Park used to have animals over there, water buffalo, this and that, by the Camp Seco area when you went in there. If she saw a mushroom, I go, Nani, what do you do? She said, water buffalo, shoo, 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 to get the mushrooms there. And that was fun doing that. And I remember uh, as a kid, used to make, my grandfather used to make homemade wine. He had a dugout. He literally dug out in the cellar, and he had these three big barrels. And my uncle Armin and I, we used to have to, we had a big vine, grapevine. We used to pick the grapes. We used to get stung by bees, and then if we didn't have enough grapes, we had to go to Ariel Market and Bay Street. And then he had the wooden vac thing where you had to crush. I swear to God, Michael, I used to get high off the fumes with the wine there. So, and then because the way they were, they grew up and through wars and this and that, they had like gardens, and you pick the tomatoes, and we go to farms. I go to farms, pick tomatoes, eggplants, whole thing, because you wanted to make sure you had sauce in the wintertime, and you used to make the grind the tomatoes in glass bottles, and my thing was putting the parts of the basil, Mychal, we call it Italian, and I used to cap it. Then you had a big barrel outside, and you had a bonfire, and you would do that. So these were things like when we were doing it as a kid. So mushroom picking I liked. It was good because we were in the parks, but I didn't want to do it because I wanted to go. I want to be playing ball and stuff like that. Now I look back upon it, very fondly, and with my grandparents, and I also remember during the oil embargo of the early '70s, before we went to school. I think I was going to, was it Kylie at the time, or Washington Street School, White Street School. It was trouble about heating your homes. Oil prices were very, very high. And I remember my father, before he opened up the shop, we'd be lined up on Trafton Road, the wood dump we had there. Now we have a forestry division. People would be lined up with their cars and trucks there to get wood, because we had a wood stove too to help out on that, and we used to do that, first thing in the morning. And then you would go to. So that's what I mean when people, when they see you, and they'll see you guys' successfulness too. They'll see in the suit and tie or this, that on TV. Your background, even though at the times when you're going through it, it could be tough, but that makes you stronger. Makes you stronger. I'm trying to think of any other fun fact. Well, there's probably some stories I could tell you, but there's probably other stories I shouldn't tell you. So I'll leave it at that. But I just think about those things growing up. Tell me a fun fact about you. You're a realistic CEO. You're an author. You're like the Renaissance man.
Fun fact about me is that the biggest goal that I want with this podcast is to be able to interview Shaquille O'Neal. That's like my one fun fact that nobody really knows. I don't really talk about it, but yeah, like that's my biggest goal, is to be able to interview Shaq. So I say that's one fun fact about me.
Very good.
So thank you for being here.
Michael, it was fantastic. Best meeting of my day. You brought your sidekick Josh here too. And of course, you brought the guru here, your dad here too. And we were at the 4th of July, East Long Meadow parade. Very idyllic, patriotic New England parade. And you had one of your other businesses there with the truck advertisements there, the billboards, the portable billboards. And when he told me that a teacher said, "Hey, kid, you'll never be a CEO." I went, "What?" So I said, "My pleasure to do it." So I hope I wanted to give you the nuts and bolts, really, not the, technical stuff, because people have to know that, hey, geez, I've gone through something like that, and that they know that they can make it.
Thank you. That's the information I wanted. I wanted to know like the stuff that nobody talks about, and you're able to talk about it today. So thank you.
Say, hey, I got a thumbs up from the realistic CEO, Michael Connolly Jr. I'm out. My pleasure. It was great.